Hello sewing friends, and welcome back to my sewing room. I've ordered some new fabrics to make winter quilts with for Christmas, which I went over in my previous video, which I'll link. I've got a few on the go, a few in my head that I'm going to make. One of them is the Penrose quilt, which I've got the fabric for, and I'm going to finish it by hand stitching, English paper piecing, and a couple of others that I've ordered fabric for, some glow-in-the-dark fabric and some fairy fabric and things like that, and it hasn't arrived yet. So in order to keep me busy whilst I'm waiting for that to arrive, I've got my Jones sewing machine going with free motion quilting, and you might remember me saying that I didn't think that was anything I'd be able to master. I also wasn't sure what machine I could do it on, so I'll link another video where I sort of explain that journey and how I ended up getting this one out again. So this is my original sewing machine that I bought in the 1980s, second hand then, and I've used it on and off since, but I tend to use my Husqvarna and my Singers more, and this one just gets forgotten because it's on the shelf with the others down there, but it's extremely heavy, so I have to have a good reason to get it out. And now I do, because without going into too much detail because it's in the other video, it's very easy to set this machine up to do free motion quilting. I couldn't be more pleased, and actually managed to do it. Now I'm sure some of you watching are experts and I've never done it, but I started off by trying this little sample quilt here, and it worked. So the other thing I managed to sort out at the same time was being able to do quilting stitches with metallic thread, because where's it gone? The other thing I managed to sort out at the same time was getting the correct metallic machine thread. If you watched my wavy table topper and my wonky stars videos, I had limited success threading my sewing machine with glittery embroidery thread. Managed to do it, but it wasn't great. Well, I've hit on this stuff now. It's a bit of a gamble because I didn't know it was going to work, but I bought this on the internet, and it is glittery metallic thread intended for quilting and intended to go in a sewing machine. So they were quite strict about saying that you need to have gone for a walk, top stitching needles in the machine to use with the thread. So I've got top stitch Schmetz. I tend to buy Schmetz. I've got Schmetz top stitch 9014 stitch needles, and so far so good. It's working. The ones that actually recommended were embroidery needles, but I've bought these and put them in, and it's working okay, so I'm going to stick with it. So what also arrived with the thread is these little net socks that you just put over the spool and then thread the thread through it, and this solves a problem which I had when I tried to use the other embroidery thread, which is it sort of tends to all unravel. And then I've fitted the free motion quilting foot as well, and it's worked. So as I say, I've gone through the detail of how to do that and how to set this machine up to drop the feed dogs, etc., which is really simple, in another video. So the project I'm going to do whilst I'm waiting for my other fabric to arrive is I'm going to make a mini log cabin table topper. So I have these, I don't know why I don't get everything near me when I start talking, but I have a few of these mats that I've made. They're all a bit seen worse, seen better days. They're pretty shot at. and I use them for side tables and bedside tables, and I think you call them a nightstand, that kind of thing. And I find them really useful because it protects the surface. Not that we've got any extremely precious furniture, but it protects the surface. You can put things down on it quietly, and you know, your tea and everything doesn't leave a mark on the table. But it's just quite nice to have it as a table topper. So I use them all the time. So I thought I'd make, and I really like log cabins, and I want to try the free motion quilting. So I've decided that's what I'm going to do as a project. So what I've got here is a load of scraps as usual. So I got some scraps here from the baby quilt, which I showed you. Got some nice scraps there, and here, and here. More than I need, much more than I need. I've also got over here quite a lot of white from my sashing box. I have a sashing box where I just put all my bits of white in, and I want quite a lot of white in the quilt, partly because I like it, but also, I say quilt, I mean mat, partly because I like it, but also because I want to see how the thread looks on it. And if it all goes okay, then I'm going to use the same technique to quilt these new ones I'm making. What I've also got here is some blanket scraps, which I'm going to use for batting. So I never actually filmed this project, but a couple of years ago I made 2 quilts for 2 of my young relatives, and they had applique animals on and that kind of thing. And I'd had these very, very old wool blankets that I remember having on my bedroom as a child. That's how old they are, really old. Proper satin edged wool blankets, and because they're nice and warm and they've got a bit of weight in them, rather than them just being shoved in a cupboard, which is where they've been for years, I use them to fill the quilts and put the labels on the back and things like that from the quilts, you know, so a little sort of truth window, that kind of, you know, it's quite a nice feature. But I did have all the scraps, so I'm going to use those for batting. So enough talk, let's get on with the project. So rather than take all this apart and take the thread out and all that, I'm going to put this to one side and get my Husqvarna out to do the basic log cabin quilting, and then get this out to do the top stitching, top quilting, free motion quilting. But I couldn't be more pleased that this has given me an excuse to keep this machine out, because I don't want to offend it, but it didn't do anything that the others didn't do, so it tended to get left. Now it does do something that the others don't do, so I'm thrilled, really. So that's the making of the quilt sandwich finished. It's all ready to go. So that's one very exciting thing, because over the last couple of days I've been really looking forward to getting to this stage when I can finally try out my free motion quilting. The other very exciting thing is that some of my Christmas fabric from my Christmas quilts has arrived. So this is, I didn't get it all from the same place. Oh, I love it. So I've ordered half a metre, that was. It's called Under the Sea. And I think some of it glows. I'm going to have to try it out in a minute, see which bits glow in the dark, but I love it. So I've not done this before other than to practice on a piece of makeshift quilting. So I'm just going to go for it, because I have made this, although it's going to be in use, it's going to be a top for a bedside table. I have made it to practice on. I've purposely included quite a lot of white bits so that I can really see how it looks. So let's just go for it. I did some of the free motion quilting that you can see there on top of the quilt. There was a lot of difficulty doing it. I was having trouble moving the quilt, and so I switched to my normal foot. I realised there's actually something wrong with my sewing machine. The stitch length adjuster, which you can just see on my right there, had actually stopped working. So I was trying to do the free motion quilting, and the stitches were absolutely minute. So I switched eventually to my Husqvarna to just do some straight stitching on it, straight stitching. And I have to move my Jones machine to the sick bay and ask my husband to fix it for me before I can do any more free motion quilting. I did wonder whether I'd actually knocked something when I was demonstrating moving the feed dog lever. So I tried to see if it was that and got covered in oil in the process. So in the end, I decided to give up on that and get the quilt finished and hand my sewing machine over to be fixed. Here you can see the finished paper minus the binding. Some of it is okay, but it's not the problem with the machine as such, or the foot. It is just that the stitch length's too short and I need to practice more. I hope this has given you an idea of what the machine is capable of, and I'm now looking forward to being able to use this technique once the machine is fixed for the rest of my quilts. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon.